This week, basket full of heads, Halloween Comic Fest, and some giant-size X-Men. It's all going down right now on PREVIEWSworld Weekly.
What's up, PREVIEWSworld? It's Wednesday, it's New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for PREVIEWSworld Weekly. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
And I'm Thea, and we're here every week to remind you guys to stop at a comic shop and get involved in what's happening in the world of comics. And, of course, if you're enjoying the show, be sure to give us a like, a follow, and subscribe to make sure you keep the nerd news coming.
And two things important are happening since we're approaching the end of October, right? First of all, it's Halloween.
Tomorrow is Halloween,
Yeah, right. So,
the time is now.
and what is your costume today? Because you've been doing costume every single week.
Yeah, I'm just being spooky today.
I mean, that's cool. I actually really appreciate the casual cosplay. Like, I can do the casual cosplay,
Yeah.
like things that are functional.
Yeah.
I can walk around in
Closet cosplay, right? Yeah.
Okay, is that the official word for it? Is that what you call
Both
it?
are appropriate
Okay.
terminologies, yes.
But like, yeah, that I can get down with. So I dig the whole, what you've been doing all
Yeah, I
month.
mean, this is like Thea wardrobe plus a few. I literally went out and stuck some sticks and leaves in it, and I was like, I'm a hedge witch.
I mean, it works, right? I mean, it works. When you walked through the door this morning, I was like, oh, okay.
Ha!
Oh,
Got him.
Thea's eyes are lighting up. All right, interesting. But also the second thing is the new catalog is out this
Yes.
week. And so we actually have, I'm going to start with the back cover this week because the back cover is a little controversial for the previews cover. Like, I was told that, there was a little concern over like what was happening on the front cover, but it is the Red Sonja at Chaos Comics crossover from Dynamite. And so you can find out more about that inside the November previews catalog out today. And then we have the Bloodshot cover, which is more like an overview of what's coming from Valiant in the year 2020.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Because what you're getting in this November catalog is everything dropping in January.
Sure.
So we're already looking ahead. And actually there's a couple more items that are not in the catalog that we'll talk about later that you can pre-order at your local comic shop now, dropping in January.
Cool.
Outside of that, actually another important thing is happening. I actually forgot about this. Inktober.
Yeah.
We've been doing Inktober all month.
Absolutely.
And people have been submitting art to us and whatnot.
Sure.
And like, it's actually been really cool. Like I've been seeing more on Instagram. If I haven't retweeted you on Twitter or Facebook or reposted you on Facebook, I'm sorry. I've been seeing mostly Instagram people tagging me.
Sure.
But we're going to compile a list of all of them. But what I did want to do is highlight one of them. Who do we have this week?
This week we have MT Uyet, who drew this really great set of stuff for us.
Yeah,
Like,
Emma Frost.
yeah,
All right.
it's beauteous, and we have, yeah.
Right. I like.
So good.
I think I can't remember. I think this was like Skull. I think this was like we did a prompt, and I think
Oh, yeah.
this one was for Skull. What was it? Number 14th. Okay, it was on the 14th. And then yesterday was Speedsters.
Yeah,
So like, yeah, there you go.
I love his work. This is beautiful stuff for sure.
Yeah, that's really nice. Nicely detailed too. I appreciate that. So yeah, thank you very much, Mark. You
Yes.
say it was Mark, right? Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for submitting, and like, yeah, we'll be compiling more of these for the rest of the month and put them on the website. So look out for that actually on October 31st and actually on Halloween.
There you go.
And and happy Halloween, guys. And because
Yeah.
it's Halloween, we're going to be doing a giveaway later in the show. We have a little bundle that we're going to show people later. It's actually really cool. It's like a nice assortment of different types of things that have been available at your local comic shop, are available at your local comic shop, and just an example of what you can get at comic book stores.
And most importantly, they are, in fact, Halloween themed.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, yeah, good catch, good catch. Outside of that, let's talk about some comics.
Yeah.
Thea's here, and Mia's here.
The
sorry.
other one.
Okay. See, the eyes threw me
Let's
off.
go
I
through
thought
all
you
the
were
girls' names.
all of them. Right, there you go. Everybody's here. No, Anna Mia's here, and she's going to show you what's at comic shops today.
Hey PREVIEWSworld, Mia here. Do you know what new comics are coming out this week? No? Well, let's take a look. Here's what's at comic shops for the week of October 30th, 2019. And happy Halloween! And we're just getting started. The world of comics has even more to offer, so stop at a shop already, and you might just find your new favorite thing. See ya!
Mia, and of course that's just a little bit of what's available. If you want to see a list that's a full rundown of what you get at your comic shop this week, head on over to PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. What you reading?
Oh, hey. Watch me point those things.
Yeah.
So the last 2 years, I want to say, there's been an X-Men series called Grand Design, right? And so now there's a Fantastic Four Grand Design, and I'm really into this now because like after reading like the X-Men one, what they kind of do is they try to find all the connective tissue within the Marvel universe in that particular Marvel line,
I like that.
and then tell a create a branching story out of everything. And it's kind of easier to do with the X-Men because the X-Men had the same writer for like about 20, 30 years, I want to say, Chris Claremont. But at the same time, it's not a small feat.
Right.
And so now Tom Scioli is doing a Fantastic Four one. And I'm not as familiar with the Fantastic Four lore, so I'm actually really curious to see what kind of connective aspects he's going to find to the continuity to make it an overarching thing. And so number 1 is out this week. And yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I'm a big fan of it.
Sounds good to me, yeah.
And I'm going to dive right in. So what else you got?
So this week we have Star Pig number 4.
Okay.
Which I believe may be the last. I think it's a mini series, so we're at least nearing the end.
Okay,
Is
right.
it? Yeah, this is the end of it. So cool. So we're at the end of Star Pig. Woo!
Thank you for confirming, John.
Yes, thank you. Because I'm like, I knew this beforehand. So of course, this is about a young woman named Vess who has been stranded in space but saved by a gigantic tardigrade, and she escaped an obsessed sentient cloud, was swept off her feet by an alien doctor, and yet things are about to get even weirder.
Even weirder.
Even weirder.
In the final issue.
So yeah, this is the final issue and the conclusion of the adventures of Vess and Star Pig.
Okay. No, that is interesting. It's kind of like an out there concept.
And I love the 80s style of the artwork
is that what you're
and
doing
everything.
too?
Yeah. Well, I mean, take a look at it, right? It's very like neon and
yeah.
like it's got a little bit of gem and the
It
holograms
definitely does.
vibe to it,
it totally
right?
does actually.
Yeah.
My other pick this week,
Yeah.
and it's a little self-serving because we did an interview with him that we're going to put out this actually later this week. It's Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive.
Cool.
It's by Jim Rugg. Jim Rugg, actually, ironically enough, Tom Scioli, who did Fantastic Four Grand Design, appeared on Jim Rugg's show Cartoonist Kayfabe, and that's how I found out about the Fantastic Four book.
There you go.
But this is actually Jim Rugg's probably oldest book. This is the one that has been traveling with him since he was just a small press guy as he transitioned into honestly a YouTube comic personality. I'm not sure if he likes people saying that, but that's kind of what happened here. But the show is actually one of his biggest claims to fame. But in terms of Street Angel, we did a video a couple weeks back of the toughest characters in comics, and she was on that list. And the reason being is because she's kind of like this homeless skateboarder who fights ninjas. And her family was killed by ninjas, so now she just hates ninjas, and so she just fights ninjas all the time. It's a very, it's just a very, very straightforward, very simple concept, easy to get. And what they've done is Image is taking all the different stories that he's done across different publishers, and it's bringing them all together into one collection. So if this sounds like something you're into, definitely pick up the collection because now you can play catch up on all of them because they used to belong to different houses before. So what big ticket items should we look at? No, actually, what is your pick this week? I'm sorry.
So I've talked about this on the show before. This is Invisible Kingdom. We're on to issue number 6. And this is the start of a new story arc. And for those of you who didn't see when I talked about it before, or don't know about this book, it's set in a far-flung, that was beautiful, far-flung star system.
Not an easy one to say.
No, say that 10 times fast. And it's a sci-fi kind of gig, and it's about a young religious acolyte and a freighter pilot who have to team up against a mega corporation that controls the entirety of society.
Okay.
And they're on the run from folks on both sides of their existences, and they have to sort of figure out how to save society.
Yeah, and I know that's part of the Berger Books line too. And it's Vertigo, Vertigo related in a lot of different ways, and also G. Willow Wilson, who created Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. So that's
another book that I picked solely by the cover when I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Gorgeous.
No, the covers for those are really cool.
Always just straight up beautiful fantasy sci-fi work.
Yeah, no, totally jubilant. I'm I'm all for that. Chrononauts. That's out this week.
Yeah.
And they're doing an interesting thing this week. They're releasing all 4 issues. And so this is a big ticket item you should probably keep an eye on, because I'm very curious what's going to happen. Normally I'm up to speed on most Mark Millar books, but I missed the first one, and this is the sequel. And so it's Mark Millar and Eric Cannett, and they're doing like this kind of like, it's always been described to me as time traveling bros.
Cool.
Like that's always how it's been described to me, which sounds fun.
Yeah,
like,
I'm down.
And
little Bill and Ted, right?
Little Bill and Ted. No, I think that's kind of really what it kind of. Oh, you know what? I never thought of that. That's actually a good point. Holy crap.
Got him.
Yeah, but like so like it's a Miller series, and like they're dropping all 4 issues, and I'm very curious how people are going to respond to that. I actually want to know in the comments how you respond to this, because I know typically you have to wait a couple months and you get the trade, but they're putting all 4 out because they kind of are they're of the attitude that like people want to binge.
Sure.
Which is understandable, like take to
Fair
have
enough,
on this.
yeah.
So I'm very curious how people feel about that. So let me know in the comments if this is a good strategy or not.
Yeah.
What else can people look forward to this
So
week?
as stated in the teaser earlier, Basket Full of Heads is out.
Right.
This is issue number 1, and this looks like a really fun series. Like I am so into this, and it's about a young woman who is wandering around with this basket full of what looks like might be melons, covered in the tattered remains of the American flag. And of course it turns out that it's a basket full of heads. And her name is June Branch, and she's trapped with 4 criminals who stole her boyfriend for deranged reasons of their own. And she has to fight for her life with the help of an impossible 8th century Viking axe that's magical in nature, so it has the capability to lop off heads and leave them animated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
So she has essentially an information source, but also they're criminals, they're bad guys,
Right.
so they're manipulative and they're skeezy and weird. So she has to sort of figure out where her boyfriend is.
Right. It's like the voices in her head leading her astray. As
Yeah.
she, interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, like this path of revenge takes her in. Like okay, all right.
Definitely
nice.
seems pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I felt like when I was looking up stuff about this book, I was looking more at like the backstory of like how the imprint came up, because this is the Joe Hill House
Right.
imprint. It's Stephen King's son.
Yes.
And like this is the imprint of DC, where he's basically, the attitude is that DC has always had a long history of horror books, which they've always
Absolutely.
had, from Swamp Thing to Sandman. And so they're trying to celebrate that, especially because it's October, with this pop-up imprint that they're doing, which is Hill House.
I like it.
And so like for some reason I didn't bother looking into what the story was actually about. I read all that stuff and didn't read any of that stuff. But that's actually really interesting, because and actually that makes it actually creates an interesting aspect to it, because one of the things I read from Joe Hill was that episodic horror is having like a boom right now, like in terms of television specifically.
Absolutely.
So comic books is actually just as good of a format to tell an episodic story. So yeah, that sounds like something I would follow week to week or month to month.
Yes,
So
me too.
interesting. All right. Earlier in the show, I mentioned Jim Rugg's Street Angel,
Yes.
and so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a teaser of that interview. We did this like via Skype or via our live chat, live stream, and Jim just talked about his career and whatnot. So here's a little clip of that, and be sure to look for the entire video later in the week. Check it out. What is Deadliest Girl Alive exactly? What is Street Angel, and what is Deadliest Girl Alive?
Well, Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive is the new Street Angel collection from Image Comics, and it collects all of the Street Angel comics I've done in the last couple of years at Image. Street Angel is a homeless ninja girl on a skateboard. So it's a superhero comic, but it may not look like your typical superhero. She doesn't have a great costume. She's not somebody that you would necessarily envy. I think a lot of superheroes are built on the premise of it's our fantasy, to be like this character or that character. And when we created Street Angel, I wanted to do something different, something that you would not read Street Angel and want to trade places with her. You might read Street Angel and appreciate your life a little bit more because you're not in her situation. But it's an action comic, it's a superhero comic that just looks a little bit different. And it's basically Street Angel. Sometimes it's her daily life, going through school and getting in fights at school. And sometimes it's her more superheroic life where she's saving the world against evil scientists, runaway robots, ninja gangs, so the kind of adventures and actions you would expect out of a superhero comic, but maybe with a little different surface look.
And that was a snippet from our Jim Rugg interview where he talks about Street Angel and like, you know, it's like I said, he's had this character with him for a long time, so it's like his baby, you know. And it's interesting to kind of see that we at one point talk about the evolution of like the character over the years, because like, you know, you create this thing in like the early 2000s and you're still doing it over 10 years later. Like your attitudes change, like, you know, like
there will be changes.
There will be changes. Even in a book, we're about a skateboarding ninja fighter, like, you know what I mean? So, so yeah, it was actually really cool, and like, yeah, it was a fun interview. So hopefully people like it.
For sure.
But now it's time for news.
Fact.
So Thea's gonna give you an idea of what's been going on in the world of comics in the last 7 days, and actually some pretty cool stuff is happening. Check it out.
The long-running science fiction Western crossover series East of West by Jonathan Hickman and artist Nick Dragotta will come to a show-stopping end with the final issue of the series, East of West number 45, set to land in stores this December from Image Comics. The beloved dystopian series first launched as a monthly series from Image in March 2013 and explores a dystopian America divided into 7 nations, wherein the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are cast as heroes. The East of West series will be collected into 10 trade paperbacks and 3 deluxe hardcover editions total. East of West Volumes 1 through 9 trade paperbacks are available now, and East of West Year 1 and East of West Year 2 deluxe hardcovers are also available now. The epic conclusion, East of West number 45, will be available at your local comic shop on December 25th. In January 2020, IDW Publishing will proudly debut Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint Blind Prophets, a 5-part comic book miniseries about the world's most elite U.S. Special Operations Forces, the Ghosts, protagonists of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon military tactical shooter video games by Ubisoft. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson and illustrated by Paco Diaz, this never-before-seen chapter of the Ghost Recon saga pits the Ghosts against a mysterious Sudanese warlord with shocking ties to their own elite team. Bridging the gap between the Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint storylines, this mission forces Nomad and Colonel Cole D. Walker to question everything they thought they knew about the Ghosts. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint Blind Prophets number 1 is available to pre-order now. Best-selling writer Rick Remender and fan-favorite artist Bengal return to Death or Glory with a new pulse-pounding story arc hitting shelves this November from Image Comics. In Death or Glory number 6, Glory is back and barreling toward the Mexican border in the hopes of delivering the liver transplant to save her father's life. Hot on her heels is her ex-husband, his criminal empire, crooked cops, psycho killers, and a Mexican murder cartel. Time, fuel, and hope are running out, but no one outruns Glory. The Death or Glory Volume 1 trade paperback collects issues 1 through 5 of the series and is available now at your local comic book shop, while Death or Glory number 6 hits shelves November 6th. And finally, the plans Jonathan Hickman has for the X-Men aren't just big, they're giant size. Fresh off launching the X-Men into an exciting new era in House of X and Powers of 10, Marvel revealed that Jonathan Hickman will be joining forces with the industry's top artists to craft a stellar new series, Giant Size X-Men. Starting in February, each issue will combine Hickman's captivating storytelling with the iconic art of a different superstar artist to depict grand-scale adventures focused on specific X-Men characters. It all begins with giant-sized X-Men Jean Grey and Emma Frost number 1. The new mutant nation of Krakoa is the place for fresh starts, and Jean and Emma, known for their fierce rivalry, will unite to rescue Storm from danger. The 2 powerful telepaths are in good hands as artist Russell Dauterman will be the first to partner with Hickman for the series. Keep your eyes peeled for announcements about other upcoming giant-sized X-Men issues and the artists and characters you can expect to find within their pages.
Nice. No, needless to say.
We're all totally surprised.
Yes. Yes, please. Also, I mean, added bonus is Russell Dauterman. Like, I don't know if you remember, like a few months back, there was like a Thor image that he did for like number 700.
Yeah.
Just, he's a great artist.
Yeah,
like,
I definitely like his work a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm okay. I'm in.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. No, it's like every now and then there's a handful of people I've seen complain about having to buy multiple X books at once to kind of follow this story. And I do understand the criticism of that, but I've also heard a lot of people surprisingly just being like, I'm just in. Like, I don't like, because people want to like be into it.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean?
If you love it, then you love it.
Right, and I think that's kind of like the catch here is like, you know, when you have a bunch of books that like nobody really is into and you're asking them to buy all the other books that connect to it, people are going to complain.
Yeah, they're going to be like, eh.
Right, but if you give them a story that they're like, I just want to wade into this, I'm like all about it, they won't complain about it. Like, you know, some
Give me
will
all the
complain.
things.
Right, some will complain, but people want to have like that immersive experience.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, good job. I also wanted to point out real quick, we mentioned the Marvel Rush solicits. You were freaking me out with these. You're like doing eyebrow like things, and I'm like, okay, no, I hope Johnny got all that on camera, please. Thank you very much. Thea's face doesn't like stop when the camera goes off. She's 24 hours. It's great. But like, so the November catalog is out this week, but there's a bunch of items that are not in the November catalog. And the reason for that is because they're being rush solicited to meet the January deadline. But it's also there's some inside baseball, but it has something to do with like how the printing process works and all that other stuff. So these books, and like these are just some of them, are Thor #1, which is the new Jason Aaron storyline. Cool. Star Wars #1, which you mentioned before on the show, is the story between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Cool. And the 4th issue of Copra by Michael Fife. And so they're all dropping January 1st, 2020, but the reason they're being rush solicited is so they can make that January 1st, 2020 release date. So if you were looking forward to any of these books, and I imagine there's quite a few of you are looking forward to a lot of these titles, let your comic shop know that you want them because, they're not in here. They're not in here this month. I take that back. I think they are featured, but you can't order them through the catalog.
There you go.
But now, what are we doing?
Toys.
Okay, toys. There you go. Natasha's here, and she's going to show you what's inside the Previews toy chest this week at your local comic shop.
Hey Previews World, Natasha here, and I'm going to give you a look at some of the new toys and collectibles in stores today. Here's the Previews toy chest for the week of October 30th, 2019. That's not all. Before heading to your local comic shop, be sure to check out PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. There you'll find a complete rundown of everything a toy collector could possibly want.
And that's just some of what's available at your local comic shop. If you're looking for more, head on over to toychest.com and check out some of the new releases this week. And first of all, the Rob Gorman Batman stuff, I might go back to the office and order one of those.
Oh yeah?
Like, those look really cool.
They're freaky.
Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with Rob Gorman. Are you familiar? I'm assuming, I know the Artist Alley series, which they're part of, is like literally like, creators, indie creators who like they give their spin on these like classic comic characters. Yeah. So
these are some interesting interpretations.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Like that Joker's really out there. Also, I know we're not supposed to make fun of the toys on the show, and I'm not making fun of the toys.
No.
It's just that like the Infinity War Captain America
does not look like Cap.
It looks like Joe Manganiello.
It does look like Joe Manganiello. They tried.
Right. I mean, they're doing the super deformed thing, like they have the big heads and all that, so it's not supposed to look like them anyway. But it just looks more like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it looks more like Deathstroke than Captain America at this point.
He's cosplaying.
He's cosplaying. There you go. Anyway, so we just saw Natasha, right? And she does the toy chest, of course, like every week. But on top of that, she's also the host of IndieH. And so yesterday, I was listening to a podcast, actually a really good podcast called Off Panel, and they talk about comics and whatnot. And they were talking about how indie creators, specifically indie books, have like kind of like taken over the direct market. Like they're like, there's a sizable interest from comic book stores in indie books,
Absolutely.
kids books, like not the typical superhero avenues that we've seen. And so I think from the get-go, we were already of the attitude that, like, yes, we should highlight indie books.
For sure.
And that's what we're trying to provide to you guys with IndieH, because we're going to expand that more and more as we go along. And so we got some cool things lined up for the IndieH name, right? And all hosted by Natasha. And one of the beginning, the genesis of this shift is going to be this video we're about to show you. This is Natasha at New York Comic Con talking to a bunch of indie creators at the show, and they kind of talk about their comic books and all that stuff, but on top of that, we get to know them a little bit better. So check this out.
Hey Previews World, I'm Natasha and this is the IndieH, where we bring you the ever-evolving, ever-diversifying world of creator-owned comics straight to you. And today we are on location at New York Comic Con. Today's episode is really special because we're not going to just show you some great comics, tell you about great comics, but we're going to get a chance to talk to the creators, writers, and artists who are bringing you these indies comics and bringing them to life. Let's take a look.
She Could Fly is about a 15-year-old girl named Luna. She has a kind of very specific type of OCD called pure O, where it's all obsessive ruminations. And so she appears normal in her high school life and at home, gets good grades, but she's kind of paralyzed with these intrusive thoughts she's having all the time that really upset her. She then ends up seeing a woman flying through the sky in the city of Chicago. Everybody sees it. And it becomes this national news story, so much so that after like 11 appearances, people kind of get bored with it. But Luna is obsessed and kind of grabs onto this story and wants to know more about this woman, who she is, why she's flying, and it kind of becomes this irrational salvation in her mind that she has to follow and get all the answers to.
Grendel's kind of the story of an anti-hero, and I created it in a stage where there weren't any anti-heroes in comics at that point. Decided to do a story about a villain, but the villain was very attractive, and the guy that was ostensibly the good guy was very bestial and savage, and not the typical good guy at the time. So over the years then, we've continued the storyline, and we just keep reinventing it. Grendel's a generational character. The persona of Grendel moves from different incarnation to different incarnation and literally covers centuries of story time, moving far, far ahead into the future into a kind of post-apocalyptic world. And that brings us to Grendel Prime, who is the star of the new series. So.
So Dead End Kids is my book from this year. I don't know if you heard of it.
A little bit. I've seen some stuff online.
Yeah, we sold a few copies. But it's the story of 3 kids in 1999 trying to solve their friend's murder. It's a little Stand By Me a little bit, Hardy Boys. Mm-hmm. A little more violent, a lot darker. But I wanted to just write a book about childhood trauma and like sort of the crappy things that happened to you as a kid, and how the truly traumatic ones, like, do they affect whether you become like a good person when you grow up, or if you that you're damned, from the start, kind of. And I have my own opinions about that, based on like the life I've lived. And the book sort of had a life of its own and decided it had a different opinion than me. So the book and I are fighting.
Rotobones is about 3 inmates in the Soviet Gulag in the 1950s who escape into Siberia and a much worse situation than the worst prison on Earth. So
it's a comedy.
It's a comedy, yeah. It's lighthearted, a lot of dancing and singing, musical numbers. It's horror. It's like straight up horror. It's like these guys are like out in the wilderness with not enough food, exposed to the elements, so things get pretty gnarly.
Nice. And then tell us about Wailing Blade.
Wailing Blade is totally different. Wailing Blade's kind of like my love letter to like insane science fiction and fantasy. It's like
Awesome.
over the top action, guys with huge muscles and huge weapons going to war with each other. It's kind of like far future after this spacefaring society has collapsed and the warlords left on Earth are the ones that control kind of like the last little bits of that that technology from that previous era. And one of the most powerful ones is the Wailing Blade, the weapon. So it's about a guy whose father is sentenced to be executed at the hands of the Wailing Blade. So he comes up with a plan to ambush the head taker, who's the executioner, and kind of take the blade and try to use it to start a revolution.
Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to talk with us today. If you are interested and want to dive more into these indie comics, head over to comicshoplocator.com to find a local comic shop near you.
And I was looking inside the process of Return to Vader's Castle. The last issue dropped this week, and they've been dropping them every week for like the last couple of weeks, actually 5 actually. It's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt to like type of thing, but with Vader.
Absolutely.
And so he's kind of like the specter that moves throughout the all these stories, the common thread through all of them. Yeah.
Spooky.
Right, exactly. And so it's just like the perfect thing for Halloween, and like, you know, it's a good excuse to kind of marry, like, you know, Star Wars with some horror elements, which, you know, truthfully, I'd actually like to see. I actually like to see that with the expanded universe stuff in the movies.
It works.
Yeah, give me like a story that's like in the Dagobah swamp or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something creepy. Why not? No, not for that.
No, I'm here for it, but it's definitely creepy.
It's definitely creepy, right? It's supposed to be creepy. But speaking of Halloween and speaking of horror,
Yes.
right? Just so happens that we do have a major giveaway that we're doing this week. This is huge. This is a lot of stuff.
This big old package of stuffs. So we have some of it in the studio.
Yes.
We have this.
Right.
Friday the 13th,
I'll
part
open it up
5.
for you.
Figure. Son of Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
And Reanimator.
Yeah.
The board game.
Yeah.
And the fourth object that is also part of this bundle that we do not have in the studio is a poster of Daryl
From The Walking Dead.
from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to win this plus Daryl, let us know. What is your favorite horror comic?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
And we were just talking earlier about Joe Hill and DC's history of horror, so there's definitely a lot of answers there. But of course, like, you know, Joe Hill also did Lock and Key, which is definitely a horror book. And yeah, there's just plenty of options. Like,
Absolutely.
I actually had a chance to interview Garth Ennis at Baltimore Comic Con. And one of the things like we were talking about was just like, you know, people associate superheroes with comic books, but comics have a long history of doing everything and anything.
Absolutely.
And like that was a big takeaway, I think, from our interview was like, yeah, you can do anything with comics.
It's not just superheroes.
It's not just superheroes, and horror is part of that, as you can also see from our picks this week. So
For sure.
there you go.
We have the winner, of course,
we do have the
from
winner.
last week. So the winner of the Batwoman pop is Christopher Poole, who responded saying that so far he likes Batwoman the show a lot. Please cosplay it for PREVIEWSworld Weekly, Thea. Okay, well, yes, that's fine. You got that cosplay money?
No, it's fair. Also fair. Come up.
Expensive.
It's expensive, right? That costume looks expensive. I did want to point out actually before we transitioned into contest winner is that like the Daryl poster, like it's just look. It's a poster. We didn't want to roll it out on the table.
Right.
But it's cool. Like, you know, and it'll be part of the bundle for sure. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But yes, on that note, we got the wrap-up time,
That's
right?
true.
We're kind of done here.
It's the end.
It's time to go trick-or-treating.
Close.
Close.
Very close.
Very close.
Yes.
So what do we got this week?
Comic shop shout out time.
Yep.
So if you guys want to have your favorite local comic shop shouted out on the show, be sure to let us know who they are. Use the hashtag #SupportYourLCS and you could get a feature. This week we're actually going to leave you with photos from last weekend's Halloween Comic Fest.
Yep.
Some of the fun stuff and cosplay and activities and people that were involved in all that. So there you go.
Cool. And I'm going to take these away from you. Just so we can close out properly. But I mean, hey guys, have a happy Halloween. Have a safe Halloween.
Yes.
I know for a lot of you who are adults, you probably already went out on Saturday and had fun. But that's it for this week's show. I am one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
And I'm Thea, and we'll see you at the spinner rack.
Thanks for watching Previews World Weekly. If you like the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes.